What's good, y'all? We back with another video, man. How y'all doing today, man? Hopefully y'all doing great, man. Today we got there is no person. I said there's no person. There's no prison that able to keep him. I don't know. I just seen this on my feed. Finna get into the video and just see what they talking about in there. Bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, what prison? Why we can't keep this nigga in prison? Like, what's up?
This inmate is Yoshie Shiratori. He's a true anti-hero in Japanese culture because he escaped from prison 4 times. No one before Shiratori had ever managed to do that. What's more, he never hurt any guards or prison officers. I've carefully studied all his breakouts as well as other people's attempts, and I'm pleased to present you with a unique guide. The best ways to break out of jail according to legendary Yoshie Shiratori and other audacious
He made a book about this shit? Oh, that's crazy, bro. Making a book about escaping jail and prison, bro. That's crazy.
How can you get out of the cell? The most logical answer is, of course, to find a key. Here's how amateurs do this. Andrew Roger, Keith Rose, and Matthew Williams are British prisoners known for forging a key to the cell. And truth be told, that was a real hassle.
Crazy.
First, they saw and memorized what the guard's key looked like. Then, as they worked in a prison sheet metal workshop, they found a piece of metal, all necessary tools, and voila, made another identical key. A surefire solution to the problem, but total lack of creativity. Here's how you can make a key if you learn from the Japanese Houdini. During his first confinement, Shiratori used a wire handle that he ripped off a bucket given to inmates when it was time to shower. He bent the handle and turned it into a lockpicker. Shiratori used it to open the cell doors. However, before that, he had spent several months studying the guard's routine and discovered that he had no more than 5 minutes to disappear at lunchtime. On the day of the escape, he put floorboards on his futon and covered them with a blanket to make the guards think he was still sleeping. Then Shiratori vanished into thin air like a ghost. There was one problem, though. The intoxicating air of freedom made Shiratori crave more adventures. Once, he tried to steal supplies from a local hospital without even having any sort of a plan. Of course, he got captured. This time, Shiratori received a life sentence and was transferred to a prison designed for fugitives. They said it was impossible to break out of it. Challenge accepted. How can you merge with nature and escape? Here's how reckless fools do this. On December the 16th, 1937, 2 prisoners, Theodore Cole and Ralph Rowe, escaped from Alcatraz, the highest security prison located on an island in San Francisco Bay. They were lucky to remain unnoticed only because that day there was a dense fog above the island. This let the convicts escape through the windows of the mat shop where they worked. Then they slowly approached the wire fence, forced the gate lock, and made their way to the beach. But the most challenging task was still ahead. They needed to get through the bay's cold waters. Today, nobody knows if they stayed alive after that trip, as both of the men simply disappeared. It's entirely possible they drowned in the cold waters, as they didn't have a raft or a boat. These guys should have learned from Shiratori. He would have never messed up so badly. When Shiratori was back behind bars, he was placed in a cell specifically designed for escape artists. It had high ceilings and smooth copper walls. The only source of light there was one bulb and a small skylight. Nonetheless, Shiratori instantly saw that the wood holding the window bars was rotting. While working at the factory, he was collecting pieces of tin and rusted nails. And then at night,
this nigga's
he's
in 1933
and used them to pry away the wood and open the window. He worked when the guards were changing shifts, around 10 minutes a day. Shiratori knew his only chance to escape was a stormy night because only then prison officers wouldn't hear his footsteps on the roof. He waited for the right kind of weather. Then he finally ripped the bars off and darted out of the cell like a bird. And then again, even being free, he couldn't find peace and put up with his unfair sentence.
He went
That's
right back,
why
didn't he?
one day he showed up at a policeman friend's house to ask for help in filing an appeal. This hasty decision brought Shiratori back to jail. How can you use your body's abilities to break out of prison? I'll give you an example of a greasy, failed escape. This is Choi Gap-bak. He was arrested on suspicion of robbery in 2012. However, after spending just 5 days in prison, the man made his escape. He just applied skin ointment that he was allowed to have to his body and then squeezed himself through the food slot that was 15 centimeters high and 45 centimeters wide. Well, pulling off a plan like this requires at least 25 years of yoga experience. Choi actually had it. It's a shame that all this was pointless after all. He was captured a day later. Shiratori wasn't a yogi, but he also didn't have any problem with the bar. And not only that, he didn't give the guards a chance to catch him. During his third detention in a remote prison called Abashiri, Shiratori had to tolerate heavy handcuffs that weighed 20 kilograms. They had no keyhole and were removed only when the man needed to bathe. But he found a way to get rid of the shackles. Every time he was having a meal, Shiratori would drip a bit of miso soup on the handcuffs and on the food slot as well. The salt corroded the metal, and both things gradually rusted. On the escape day, Shiratori broke the handcuffs in the bar without much difficulty. And then he did something incredible. He dislocated both of his shoulders to slip himself out the small opening like a lizard. He lived in the mountains for about 2 years until he was arrested for fatally stabbing a farmer. Of course, if he had really been a lizard, he could have dropped his tail and run away. But let's get real. Yoshie Shiratori was sentenced to death. But that fact only made wheels in his head turn faster and invent new ways to escape. How should you dig tunnels if you want to break free? First, I'll show you how impatient fools do that. Bro. Inmates at Florencio Varela Penitentiary in Buenos Aires dug a tunnel in just 2 days. It was 2 meters long and 1.5 meters deep. They were able to do this because they worked in prison workshops and had access to all the necessary tools. To hide what they were doing, they put a piece of plywood above the hole in the ground and sprinkled sawdust on top of it. Without realizing it, these criminals were digging their own graves instead of a way out, as their secret passage led to the jail's guard dog kennels. I still recommend you to learn from Yoshie Shiratori. That's who always knew that haste makes waste. When he was placed in prison for the 4th time to await execution, he ended up in a cell with high ceilings and windows smaller than a human head. All doors, windows, and bars were reinforced so that he couldn't weaken or break them. The prison guards had so much faith that Shiratori was finally helpless that they didn't even bother to handcuff him. Too bad. The infamous escape artist started digging his way out however he could. He used his hands, spoons, and
El Chapo before El Chapo was.
He covered the hole in the floor with his futon and swept the dirt under it and under small pockets beneath the floorboards. In the end, Yoshie finished this tunnel and ran away like a mole. However, the victory was short-lived. One day, Shiratori met a policeman in the park. The officer just took a vacant spot on the bench where he was sitting and offered him a cigarette, an incredibly generous gesture in post-war years. Deeply touched by that kindness, Shiratori started telling the man about his jailbreaks. You can guess what happened next. When Yoshie Shiratori went to prison for the 5th time, he didn't try to escape anymore. Do you have any idea why? Please share your thoughts.
He tried to escape because he died. You know what I'm saying? And I was just playing. I don't know, bro. That nigga, bro. He was El Chapo before El Chapo was El Chapo. It's crazy, bro. Man, hopefully y'all like the video, bro. This nigga escaping with lubricant oil and shit like that. Nigga Like I don't understand. Niggas be so smart. Niggas be so smart in jail, but hopefully you guys like the video, bro. See y'all tomorrow, bro.